So hello from Green-Mopeds in London. So today we are taking out a new bike for us called an eCooter E1R. It's a 4.2 kilowatt 125cc equivalent motorcycle. It's out of China. And we are just going to put it through its paces. So 4.2 kilowatts actually puts it up there a little bit, because that's more than any NIU at the moment. In terms of power, it's also more than a Super Soccer CPX, but not as powerful as a Horween EK3. So it's sort of one up from a new and Super Socco, but not quite as powerful as a EK3 from Horween. Another interesting little thing about it is that it's belt driven, so you've got a transfer of power rather than sort of like a direct feed like you get off the hub motors. But despite that, it's not really making any noise. It's making quite a nice noise actually, not one that you probably are hearing, but a lot of the belt driven bikes like a TC Max, they do make noise that is noticeable, but not on this bike. So it's quite clever that they can not waste that energy on losing it to noise and stuff like that. So good on them. There are actually there's an S variant of this bike, and they've also just announced a new model that's not available yet in the UK, but soon will be. Well, sorry, might well be. But this is the one, I think it was the only model that's available in the UK right now from various people. So yeah, 4.2 kilowatts, 64 volt battery. So again, they've sort of gone up a little bit. So the CPX has a 60 volt battery. New have 60 volt battery, but Horweens have 72 volt batteries. So they've obviously picked some probably more sales actually. Samsung, so good brand there. 40 amp hours, which means again quite highly rated. A Super Soccer CPX is 45 amp hours. So they've sort of upped it a little bit with Samsung cells, so you can't really go too wrong with that. The quoted range of this bike is, well, they say in kilometres, up to 100 kilometres, but let's say it is 50 miles, so 45 miles realistic. I keep telling people not to extrapolate, but I've done, I think, 4 miles and I've used 13%. So times that by 7, might get up there actually, although I've been sort of just cruising around, not testing it. The maximum speed is 50 mile an hour. So again, if you're comparing, a bit more than NIU, not quite as much as a CPX, and definitely not as much as a EK3. Okay, but I find it quite responsive, more than other bikes I've ridden actually. It's got 2 modes, so we're in smart mode, which is eco basically, and yet it's responsive. So yeah, it's good. I'm going to hopefully find a road I can actually go full speed on in a minute. It also is smart, as in it has an app. So there's a GPS unit for checking, which is obviously a useful thing when or if your bike ever got stolen. So there's a GPS unit with a SIM card. On this bike I think it might need a new one. What people do about that with some of these bikes is they will include a 3-year contract on the SIM card for free, as in the data is for free. But after that you have to sort it out yourself or pay them. I guess you could switch it to like a standard pay-as-you-go SIM or something like that. But this one has all of those sorts of things. It also has, as you will hear shortly, I think, indicators that make noise, which we talked about in the past. This one's actually a bit too loud, to be honest, as in it sounds a bit embarrassing. So when I stop, you'll hopefully hear what I mean. That is a bit loud. I mean, you're not going to miss it, put it that way. And no, neither is anyone else, which is also a good thing. Okay, so you've got standard stuff. You've got a cubby hole, USB port. It's actually got cruise control and reverse. And we talked about reverse before, the sort of usefulness of reverse, but it does have one. So this bike doesn't weigh a lot, though. It's 89 kilos. The battery, there's only one battery under the seat. One of the things that you notice with the bikes that have batteries under the seat, like Sunra Robo, Horwin, is the space that you're going to get for your legs. You see, under the handlebars. And this one, because the floor pan is quite low, enables you to actually, I'm 6 foot and don't have any problem. So that has been noticed by a few people recently, that the ones with the batteries under the floor pan might have that issue. Okay, so we're now going onto a road that can do 40. I think I should have gone the other way. But anyway, so see, no problem getting up to 40. The bike is still not making any noise, so that it sort of just shows how well that belt must be working or fitting to not make any noise. It is enclosed, maybe that might make a little bit of a difference, but you wouldn't know that you're on a belt driven bike. Yeah, so it's one removable Samsung battery. It's big, 15 kilos, it's quite hefty. You can obviously charge it off the bike. That will take pretty standard time, really, 5 to 6 hours. If you were to charge it from flat, which we always say you should avoid if you really can. Don't have to, but it's better if you could. Not too sure why you get 2 indicators of batteries on your dashboard, because there is only one, but there you go. It also starts through this button here. So you've obviously got the key. So you put the key, turn it on, and then you press it with the start button, and it makes one of those. Like a lot of Chinese bikes, it does make a interesting sort of welcome noise. So you've got just over 4 kilowatts. So 1 horsepower is 750 watts. Okay. So you've nearly got 6 horsepower. And as you can see, it accelerates up to 40 pretty comfortably. So we're doing 40 now. If I was on a road that can do 50, like most of these bikes, because of the limit they have on horsepower, usually when you get to the last, 5 or 6 miles an hour that you want to achieve, that becomes a little bit painful. You might have seen some of our speed tests that we've done on like the NIUs and things like that. You get to 0 to 30s in a sort of reasonable time, but from then on it sort of drags a little bit. I guess it's just a pure fact of the lack of horsepower that you have or don't have. Okay, but as you can see, cruising along at 40 just fine. I'm still a bit surprised by the lack of noise. I was really expecting it. Some people want and expect noise, because of the dangers of riding silently. I'm a bit ambivalent about it, to be honest, because of the fact that most people in London at least are walking around with headphones on anyway, so they would never know. Anyway, yeah, it's very comfortably cruising. The seat's quite wide, so the design of this bike is in some respects a little bit similar to an EK3 without the running lights. So it's quite round at the front, like an NIU is square lines, very sort of sharp lines and stuff like that, but this one's fairly round, and the seat is quite wide. It does have pegs for the second person. Whether you'd want to do that with the second person for long journeys is debatable. You can get a rack for this bike and a top box and all that for them to lean against, so that's certainly a possibility. But in terms of how it rides, I mean, these are 12-inch wheels, I think, fairly wide profile. You've got front and rear disc brakes, so good stopping and everything like that. I didn't notice regen. I don't think it has regen. Oh no, it does have regen. They just call it something else, that's right. They give it a fancy name, but it is regen. I don't feel it, is I guess more to the point. I don't feel there's a clicking going on when you brake, but they do say that it has it, so that's good as well. But to be honest, at best you're going to gain about 2 miles back. So whether a bike has regen or not is, it's not going to make a little difference. Obviously, if you're 2 miles away from home, then it would make a lot of difference. But typically, it's not going to make a lot of difference. So what we're going to do is we are going to turn around and pull over and then do a sort of speed test on this, going back onto the A406. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're going to just basically floor it and see what happens. We're in sport mode. We've got 3/4 of a battery left, so should be fine. And we'll put the times up when we get back and see how we get on. Okay, so let's go. Alright, so we'll put the times up afterwards. Okay, so that's basically 30. And that was 40. Most of the time you're not. Most of the time most cyclists, one of their key concerns is getting away from the lights, not necessarily going from 40 to 50. It's how quickly you can, get away from the traffic that you're sitting in front of. So that was pretty quick. So I think in summary, it's more responsive than an NIU, but then it should be. It's got over a horsepower more. The range, as we pretty much always say, NIU are the people who you get the most range from. But others, often you get more speed, performance, and stuff like that from. And this is another one of these examples. It's got a higher rated battery, which will give it more power, but as there's only one of them, and it's big, but to drive a more powerful motor, you then lose out on range. So if the quoted range is true, which is 50 miles quoted, let's say it's 40, that puts it a bit more than a CPX, I would say. probably about the same as a Horwin actually, EK3, because they also have a range. Well, they say 50, but let's say that's 40, and let's say this is 40, so it's about the same. I would say it's about the same. But NIU, if you go for the GTS Pro, you'll get more range. Not surprising, but it costs more money, so also not surprising. So hopefully that's given you some insight into this bike. As I said, we don't actually carry this brand. We're actually testing it because someone wanted to sell one, or actually sell this one, and they said we could have a go on it before we did that. So that's why we're giving it a ride. So we'll give it a static review as well and get you some more insight into it. But I hope you found that useful. If you do ever have a E1R in mind, hopefully this will help you get some insight into it. And obviously please subscribe to our YouTube channel, because there's lots of reviews on there. And if you have any questions about this or any of the other bikes we have, then please feel free to get in touch. Thanks very much.